I've tracked over 3,500 of my own golf shots over the last couple of years, and I'm going to tell you what I've learned from it and what it's going to tell me about how to get better. So it's been a while since I've really sat down with my Arccos app and looked at the last 3,500 shots and 2.5 years of golf to help me understand a bit more about my game. So that's what we're going to do now, from the top of my bag right down to the bottom. Now, I'm a 6.5 golfer, index golfer at the time of recording, and I'd love to be off about 5-ish in the next 12 months. So that's what the app's going to show us and what I've been comparing myself to for the last sort of year or so. So start with my driver, shall we, which I always thought was actually a strength of my game, or not my driver, but my shots off the tee. Turns out it really isn't, which is something I've learned pretty starkly, actually, looking at this app. That's what I like about the data. It's not going to sugarcoat it for you. So I lose 1.8 shots per round to the average 5 index golfer. And let's take a look at why. And while we'll come on to distance in a second, what I learned the most from looking at this is that I've actually got a two-way miss. Now, I thought my miss would always be left. I'm a left-hander who slices the ball quite a lot. And I thought the majority of my missed fairways were going to be those big left misses. 26% though, is this what this is saying. And it's saying that 30% actually go right. So I've got a two-way miss. How I attack that into next year, I don't know yet. I'll work on it. But at least it means I can be less anxious about my big slicey one, because it turns out that isn't the one that's killing me the most. It's both of them. If you look at distance really quickly, looks like a problem, right? 30 yards shorter all the time than an average 5 handicapper, but it isn't. And I know it isn't, I'm not just saying that to myself. At my course, a lot of the par 4s, hybrids, are long irons, and the distance isn't really a thing there. I might even use my driver 5 times where I play the majority of my golf, and that's why that number looks like that. It's a shame that Arccos can't quite work that out. That might be an update for the future. But if we jump onto my club distances really quickly here on the app, you can see when I do get the driver out, I average 256 and 241 with my 3-wood. So that about corresponds to where I should be. I just know that the majority of the time, I'm not doing that. But in summary, with the shots off the tee, a big work in progress. But it's nice to know that, well, it's not nice to know, good to know, it's useful to know I've got the two-way miss. I'll go and work on that. And I know not to worry too much about distance, but maybe actually it's a chance to get my driver or 3-wood out a little bit more. Okay, let's move on to my approach game then and what I've been able to learn from this. So before we get on to that, actually, if you look on the screenshot you'll be reading now, you can see underneath my name, Arccos actually thinks I'm off 7.6. So a shot worse than I actually am. Shows you a lot about my golf at the minute. But back to approaches, and I'm losing 1.7 shots per round here compared to the average 5 handicapper, which is very similar to my driving in strokes gained analysis. There's quite a lot to dive into here about why it's going so wrong. The key one I want to look at, though, is where I'm missing my greens. So my green regulation percentage is actually okay, 45%, and the 5 handicap is 46%, so they're pretty much even. But look how many I'm missing short, 32%, which equates to about 6 greens a round. So what I'm going to learn from that going into this year, 2024, is I'm going to encourage myself to hit one more club into greens each time. If I start going long, that's fine. I think for a couple of rounds, it's worth experimenting with. A part of the app I really like, and this was a recent update, is green and reg percentage from distance. So we look at this graph here, you can see that my big weakness, annoyingly, is that 50 to 74 yard wedge shot. I thought I was quite good at them, but only hitting the green 65% of the time from that distance isn't great. So there's something I'm going to go and work on. But on a more brighter note for myself, for my own sanity, you can see how I'm actually quite good with my longer irons, my 5 irons and my 7-wood and my 4 hybrid, with that green in regulation percentage from 175 to 200. I'm well above where I should be with that. So that's good to know, and sort of shows me, I guess, I'm quite good at my long irons and I'm good at hitting greens with hybrid and 7-wood as well. So I can park them and go and work on that sort of smaller wedge shots, for example. But the nugget I'm taking into next year for sure, looking at this, is to hit more club into greens, stop falling short so often, and just see if that helps me get any lower. Okay, let's take a look at my short game now, my chipping, and it's a note of improvement at least this time. I'm losing 1 shot per round this time to the 5 index golfer, which is better. And as you can see from my trending graph over the last 49 rounds, that pink line there, I'm very hot and cold. very, very hot and cold. Currently hot at the minute, or hotter. Let's take a look why and what I need to work on this year. And the clear thing that the data is showing me, absolute headline, surprised it isn't giving me a push notification about this all the time, up and down percentage. 25 to 50 yards away, 11%. I should be doing that 26% of the time if I want to play off an index of 5. My 0 to 25 yard chipping is okay. And my proximity to the pin from both of these distances is also okay. I'm clearly not holding enough putts or not quite getting myself close enough. But I think a key area for me if I want to get that to parity with a 5 handicapper is making more up and downs than 25 to 50 yards. And that actually sort of kind of speaks to the data we looked about in my approach game, that my green regulation percentage from 50 to 74 yards wasn't that good. One thing this has shown me that I didn't know about, I thought I was an okay bunker player, bang average, probably on the level. My sand accuracy, which is a stat I'm very proud to say I'm good at, is very good. My up and down percentage is spot on. I never miss a green. I've never missed a green from a bunker between 25 and 50 yards out. Pretty proud of that. Put that on my gravestone as and when that comes around, because that's pretty cool, I think. So that's good to know. I can put bunkers to one side for now and really work on pretty much every wedge shot on grass anyway, between 0 and 75 yards. Okay, lastly, let's look at my putting then. Now, this is something I thought I was really quite bad at, but the data, this unbiased data, which I've loved looking at, is showing me no, it's the strongest part of my game, in fact. I'm gaining 0.9, let's call it 1. I'm gaining a shot per round against a 5 index golfer, which feels great. It gives me a lot of confidence that I didn't actually know I had. As you can see from my trending line of the last 49 rounds, I am super hot or cold. I'm going to really try and work on getting this line looking less like someone who's in cardiac arrest and something more like someone, sat watching the telly. It's not good, but let's see why I am quite good. And it surprised me, and this is a recent update to the app that's helped me, or helps all users, dive a little bit more in detail to specific parts of the game. So from 14 feet and in, you can see that my make percentage is way above where a 5 index handicapper is. So that's good news for me. Specifically, look at 10 to 14 feet putts. That green line, I'm holding 53% of them, which is more than double what a 5 index is doing. And that bit of nugget of information is going to help me go into this year. So if I can get my chip shots closer and my approach shots closer, I can then lean on the strong part of my putting game, which is 14 foot and in putts, and hopefully bring some shots down a little bit more. Obviously, there's still areas I can work on. If we look at the amount of putts per round I have, 34.3. That's over 2.2 more than a 5 index golfer. That's not good enough. I've not got enough 1 putts. I'm 2 putting a little bit too much. So that's something I can still go ahead and work on. But at least I know now, thanks to this information, if I do get myself within 15 feet, I'm more likely to hold the putt than I am to miss it, which is great to know. So I can go away, work on my chipping, and hopefully lean on my putting even more. So lastly then, I just want to take a little dive into another section of the app, which is your club distances. And this is a thing I think I need to start looking at more often to check where I'm at and to check gapping problems that have been arising. So over the last 3,500 shots, we can see some interesting bits in here. Firstly is that I carry a 7 wood and a 4 hybrid, both of which go pretty much exactly the same distance. Do I need to drop one of those out of the bag? Maybe, but I love them both dearly, so probably not. But it's one to note, isn't it? I think the most interesting part is my 6 iron and 7 iron. 7 iron's averaging 166, 6 iron's averaging 168. I had to go work on my 6 iron. This is giving me a major gapping issue in the bag. That should be around 170, 178 really. And it means there's a big gap between my 5 and 6 iron, and my 6 and 7 are too close. Now, I didn't know that prior to this, but now I do. And maybe it's why I'm coming up really short. A lot of the time we spoke about that on my approach game, because I'm hitting my 6 iron, but I'm not hitting it well enough at the minute. Then we come into my wedges. There's a really big gap between what I would describe as my full 50-degree wedge and my full 56 wedge, 113 to 87. Maybe I need to get a 54 instead of a 56 to close that gap a little bit. But it's really interesting to learn, I think, this sort of thing. And knowing how far you hit the ball is super, super important. And making sure there's no major gapping issues is also super important. You can't really do that without something like this. So my nugget for 2024 at least is to work on my 6 iron, weirdly.